So in this second lathe video, we're going to go over 3 operations. Turning down the diameter of the piece of round stock, knurling the piece of round stock, and then drilling a hole in it. So I'm at my lathe. We've already talked about the whole lathe in the last video. This is the piece that I'm going to be machining. So, step 1, I need to set my speed to the proper speed for this. Well, this is aluminum, about 1 inch in diameter. So I turn to my speeds and feeds chart on here. I look for 1 inch, aluminum. For roughing cut, it says 800 RPM. Finishing cut, it says 1200 RPM. So that roughing and finishing, roughing, you hog out a ton of material, but the surface finish isn't as good. And with a finishing pass, you take a lighter pass, but it looks better. So between 800 and 1200, I'm going to go for 1000. Cut it right in the middle. So, look on here, I'm looking for C2. C2. And we're good. I'm going to chuck it up into the lathe. Oh. I'm using a 3-jaw universal chuck because I'm turning some round stock, but I could use a 4-jaw independent chuck if I was turning something that wasn't round stock. So, what are the operations I'm going to do? I'm going to turn down the diameter. By that, I mean I'm going to take a tool and move it along the outside of the piece, and that will make the diameter of the piece smaller. Big round stock turns into smaller round stock. Then I'm going to knurl it. Knurling adds a diamond-shaped pattern on the outside. Looks pretty cool, also adds grip. If you think about a weightlifting bar, a 45-pound bar for bench pressing, that grip on there is knurling. And then finally, I'm going to drill a hole in here, right on the end. So before I turn down the outer diameter, this piece is pretty short, it's pretty stubby, but we're going to treat it as if it were longer just to go over the processes. I would want to use a live center if this were a longer piece. And for a live center to work, there needs to be a spot for that live center to sit. And if we zoom in on it, you'll see that this is just flat. So we need to change that. This is a combination drill and countersink. This is what we use to start drilling. Also, it's the same angle, same taper as our live center. So what we do is put this into our 3-jaw Jacobs chuck, drill a tiny hole, just a little divot, which gives a place for our live center to rest. So I have my 3-jaw Jacobs chuck in here for drilling. Tighten down by hand, then I use the chuck key to really make sure that's not going anywhere. And before I start, there are no guards, so safety is number 1. There's no automatic stops. I have to be wearing my safety glasses. My ID is off. My hair is tied back. I don't have any long strings hanging down from my sweatshirt. No friends are distracting me. I'm not wearing any headphones. I've taken my smartwatch off because I don't want any notifications. My phone is not in my pocket. I'm ready to work. So, I'm going to move the carriage out of the way a little bit, making sure that it's not in the way of the chuck though. And I'm going to slide forward the tailstock. I'm going to bring it up close to it, give myself a little bit of room. Remember that if you back this up underneath 1 inch, this chuck is going to start popping out. So I don't need that to happen. Lock this in place. I'm good to go. Starting machine. Reset, power, inch to make sure all my gears are set, and then we run forwards, which means that this black handle goes down. Here, click, inch, and I'm good. I'm just going to slowly feed this in. Just a little bit. And that's what we get. Our center drill and countersink has done its job. I can back this up. Going to remove that. Remove the drill while I'm at it. Lock that in place. Now again, I don't need a live center for this because it's so short, but if we were turning something longer, that's what we would use. One thing I do need the live center for, though, to find out where the center of my work is. This is now lined up with the center. Great. That's important for my cutting tool. Now you saw briefly a cutting tool in the last video. This is the one that I'm going to be using today. It's the same one. It's a round nose cutting tool. A round nose cutting tool is round on the front, and it can cut both left and right. There are also left cutting tools and right cutting tools. Right to left, it's a right cutting tool. Left to right, it's a left cutting tool. Round ones can cut both ways. So I have my tool holder and I have my tool. On the back here, there's an Allen key. So all I need to do is tighten that down. Just tightening it a little bit right now. It does need to be really tight in a second, but to get some good torque on it, I'm dropping it into my tool holder, and then once it's on my tool post, it's a lot easier to make sure it's really tight. Last thing you want is that tool to come loose and go flying while you're machining. Now, where does my tool holder go on my tool post? There's no specific stop for it, right? That's when we use our live center as a reference. We want the tip of the cutting tool to be just in line or just above, just a tiny bit, the center of the live center, the center of the work. That's because at the center, when it's turning, the middle is the furthest away on the round stock. So it's just the best spot to machine. So I've lined it up with my live center. And now I'm good. I'm going to back my tailstock out of the way. Again, if this were a longer piece, I would use it, but I don't need to today. My compound slide is all the way forward. Remember, whenever we're machining, we want this compound slide all the way forward so it doesn't run into the chuck. I'm going to bring it up to my material just to make sure I'm in the right spot. Back it up. Go forward a little bit. I'm going to take off about 1/16 of an inch to start. All right, so I'm ready to cut. When I cut, I want to use something called cutting fluid. Nice little container over here. There's a brush, and there's a liquid inside. This is cutting fluid. We use cutting fluid for a couple of reasons. It keeps our tools sharp, and it just gives a better surface finish on our piece of work. Since we're cutting with friction, it just keeps the temperatures a bit cooler, gives us a better result. So, reset, power, inch. I'm good to go. Put that cutting fluid on. Now I'm going to manually drive this across to start this cut. Now I'm paying attention where my tool post is and where my chuck is. I don't want those to go too close to each other. All right, backing my tool out, going back to the right. And just like that, I removed a little bit of material. So, let's do this again. Let's use auto drive this time. Cutting fluid. Remember, this handle right here engages auto drive, power feed. There's no extra stops. I have to be in charge of making sure this does not break itself. On. On. And off. I don't need to, I'm in no rush to take off too much material. I'd rather just make sure that I don't crash the machine. There are some chips right there. Just to get rid of it, there's a brush. Just be careful that those things are razor sharp. And now you get the hang of it. And I'll do one more. You never have too much cutting fluid. So now I have turned down the diameter of this piece of round stock. So the next operation that we're going to talk about is knurling. Like I said earlier, knurling is the diamond pattern that we sometimes put on the exterior of a piece of round stock for grip or for appearance. You've seen knurling on weights. This is a knurling tool right here. There are two little wheels that cut grooves into the side. What I've done here is turn down another piece just a little bit longer, give us a bit more room to work. When we run this, it has to be really slow. So I'm at 1,000 RPM. I'm going to drop it down to 70. So B1. I'm now going to replace this in my tool post. Now, I've just done some machining, so I expect that tool to be very warm, so I'm not grabbing it near the tip of it at all. This right here is the knurler. This has a little bit of give to it. What we have to do is line it up. We have to line it up as close as possible with the center. So for ours is going to drop right down to the bottom of the tool post. Everything's tight. I'm going to double check that I'm in right speed. Oh yeah, look at how nice and slow that is. I'm going to bring it up to it. And now I'm going to press it in and start it. And the wheels now move with it. And then I'm going to engage power feed. And this thing is going slow. There's no need to rush this operation. All right, so that's a great demonstration. I'm just going to disengage power feed. Back off the knurling tool. Shut it down. And now we have a nice knurl on there. Now the final operation that we will perform is drilling. Now, when we're drilling into metal, we've talked about this when we covered sheet metal, we need to give a drill bit a place to start, something to grab onto. And for drilling into sheet metal and all other times, we use something called a punch. Here, we're not going to punch the end of the stock. We've already done this with the countersink and center drill. We've already started this process. One of the advantages of using it, besides its shape similarity to the live center, is that it's really short, stubby, and it's strong. It's not going to wander at all. If it was a longer drill bit, it would wander and wave, and your drill would not be in the center of your piece. With this, it starts right in the middle. Now that we have that, we can jump up to larger drill bits and drill into it. Step one, I'm going to remove my live center. Pop that out. Pop in the 3-jaw Jacobs chuck. Now, let's say I wanted to drill a 5/8 hole in here. I cannot just start with a 5/8 drill bit. The biggest step that you want to take is 1/4 inch. So if I want to do a 5/8 drill bit, I would have to drill a hole 1/4 inch, then 1/2 inch, and then I could jump up to 5/8 to finish it off. That's just so we don't accidentally bite off more than we can chew, quite literally with those drill bits, and it keeps it all centered. So I'm going to drill a 1/2 inch hole, which means I need to drill twice. 1/4 inch, then a 1/2. So I'll start out with the 1/4, pop that into my 3-jaw Jacobs chuck in the tail stock, tighten that down. That's not moving. Remember, I'm not going to go underneath 1 inch or else this will start to pop out. I'm going to move my carriage out of the way of my tail stock. Oh, right there. But I'm not going to move the carriage at all. I'm not cutting with the carriage. All I'm using is the headstock and the tail stock, and then the carriage just to control on and off. When I drill, I'm going to use plenty of cutting fluid. These drill bits are high-speed steel, and they require quite a bit of cutting fluid to keep them cool and keep them sharp. I'm going to go back up to 1,000 RPM. My drill bit is not yet touching. So all I need to do is turn it on, add some cutting fluid. I'm going to actually add cutting fluid first. Turn this hand wheel in the back to move that forward. We go in, then back out, go in, then back out. And I know the depth because of the ruler on my tailstock. So it'll tell me, oh, you started at 1 1/4 inches. You're at 1 3/4 inches, that means you're 1/2 inch deep. We're back out, add some more cutting fluid. All right. I'm going to turn the whole machine off. These little bits are going to be warm and they're going to be sharp, so careful. So now I need to jump up to my 1/2 inch bit. Remove one, put the other in. That's locked in. Cutting fluid. You can never have too much cutting fluid, especially when you're drilling a large hole. Reset, power, inch, on. Let's go. I'm only going in a little bit at a time, then I'm backing out to make sure that I break those chips. Now I can back that out. Turn the machine off. Shut the machine down. Now we see we have drilled a 1/2 inch hole inside a piece that we turned down and knurled. This was the second of 2 videos on the lathe. You will be taking a safety quiz when you're in the building. So if you have any questions, please reach out. I'm happy to help, and I'm happy to answer anything so you don't feel too intimidated when you use this machine for the first time. Have a great day.